Hey guys, Ashlane here, coming at you today with a 12 Earthquake 3-star guide for Town Hall 11. So what I wanted to talk to you guys about today is really breaking down this strategy and talking a bit about why it's so valuable. So let's get into the strategy outline right away. The best strategy for 3-starring anti-3 Town Hall 10s as a Town Hall 11. Now this is very important because what we've been doing in my clan lately is having our Town Hall 10s attack Town Hall 11s and having our Town Hall 11s use their attacks to 3-star Town Hall 10s. So it's not a very technical attack, it's easy to plan, and it's the highest percentage 3-star attack you're going to get as a Town Hall 11 attacking a Town Hall 10. Now we'll review the strategy keys throughout this episode, but suffice it to say, 4 earthquakes in the middle and 8 earthquakes around the perimeter is the way to go when engaging these anti-3-star bases. Now the key to the attack besides the earthquakes is the deployment order, the technique, and the timing on the hero abilities. So let's stop talking about it and actually show you guys how it's done here. So this war, we actually lost by 1 star, but we 3-starred a lot of their Town Hall 10s using the same strategy. So I'm just going to pick out 3 replays here, a few different army variations on these replays, but the technique is going to be the same every single time. Doesn't matter if there's 2 multi-target Inferno Towers or if there's 2 single-target, even better. If there's 1 of each, obviously even better as well. So you can see in the middle of the base here, what you're going to do is use 4 earthquakes to really open up most of the center compartments. So basically right where that queen is, Cybertron is going to go ahead and use his first 4 earthquakes, or maybe his last 4 earthquakes. You drop the earthquakes all on the board before you go in with this attack, unless you're going to start out with a queen walk. We'll actually watch one of those replays next. So here it is, 3 earthquakes. It opens up a really nice area for you to spread your troops, and obviously the whole center of the base is pretty much accessible at this point. See that little narrow strip there? So let's go ahead and watch how Tron executes here. So we're using 3 golems. You can go ahead and deploy the golems in a pretty even spread, 2 in one opening, 1 in the other. Then you spread out your wizards. Now on this technique, you're not going to clump up your witches. You want to get a nice wide spread on the witches, and what you can do is send your heroes into the opening opposite the opening that you put the 2 golems. So essentially one of your openings is going to have a golem followed by your heroes. The other opening is going to have 2 golems followed by the wizards and the witches. So your deployment order is very important on this attack. So you're always going to deploy your golems first. Obviously this is not the queen walk variation, but this is the normal variation. You're going to deploy your golems first, followed immediately by your wizards in a nice spread formation, followed by your witches in a spread formation, followed by your king, your queen, and your warden. And you want to make sure you do it in that order. And you want to make sure the heroes are deployed pretty fast. All your deployments on this strategy are going to be pretty fast because you want to get your warden attached to your troops. You don't want to have him linger behind. So if you stagger your troops or you clump them up too much, you might be in trouble. The idea here is that now that the whole base is accessible using those earthquake spells, you want to use the Grand Warden ability pretty early on in the raid. But before you use the Grand Warden ability, this is very important. I see a lot of people not doing this. Very important in any raid that you do, for the most part, unless you have something, strategically planned out beforehand. Maybe you have your warden walking with your queen, which we might see in the next replay. But more often than not, you want to use your Barbarian King's Iron Fist ability right before you use the Grand Warden's Eternal Tome ability. So that's very important. That way it gives all those barbarians on rage via the Barbarian King Iron Fist ability, it gives them invincibility. That's really key. They actually do a lot more damage and a lot more destruction in those 8 seconds than one would think. So it's very important to use the Barbarian King ability and then boom, Grand Warden ability, Eternal Tome. So that's important to do on all these strategies, on all your attacks. Really really important to keep in mind. So here we go again. Now, Aronos is going to go ahead and use Queen Walk into the same strategy here. So again, same idea with the Earthquake spells. 2 entry points and then open up the center of the base. Now, a lot of you might be asking, can I use this as a Town Hall 10? You certainly can, absolutely, but you're probably not going to 3-star without that Eternal Tome ability. So important to keep in mind, very safe, high percentage 2-star, not always going to 3-star. In fact, you're probably not going to 3-star. Now, Aronos starts a little bit differently. This is a little bit more advanced, a little bit more technique, but if you're comfortable with your Queen Walks, go ahead and consider using a Queen Walk. Now, you don't have to use the Grand Warden with the Queen. This is a little bit of a trickier Queen Walk, but the advantages to this are, it's pretty obvious. This base has the mortar in the center there. That's a little bit different. Usually the mortars are around the edges on these bases. So if there's a mortar in the center and they're kind of in an unsymmetrical layout in terms of the placement of the mortars, you might want to start with the Queen Walk because you have to take out as many mortars as possible during the engagement of this base. This is one of the reasons that we spread out the troops upon the initial deployment of the base, right? So you're spreading out the troops for 2 reasons. Number 1, you're mitigating the mortar damage. Your troops aren't clumped up. The mortars aren't going to be able to take out your witches as easily. And number 2, you're obviously more apt to destroy 2 mortars if you spread your troops out over the corner of the base. Now, on this base, there wasn't a mortar in every corner, so Arrow had to go ahead and start out with the Queen Walk, taking out that extra mortar. So remember, guys, besides the multi-target Inferno Towers, mortars are your number 1 enemy on these raids. Now, starting out with the Queen Walk has its other benefits. Those healers are going to stay alive, hopefully, unless you run into an air defense. But you can see here, using the Eternal Tome ability as soon as that air defense started locking onto the healers, that was really smart by Arrow, and it might be the reason that this attack was 3 stars versus 2. So now a lot of his troops are still alive. Arrow didn't follow my advice using the Barbarian King Rage ability before the Eternal Tome. A lot of people don't do that because it's kind of unnatural to use the Rage, the Iron Fist, so early on in the battle. Sometimes your Barbarian King is still close to full health, but let me just trust me, guys. If you heard my recent interview with Woody, he talks about how that extra invincibility on those Rage Barbarians is much better than getting that life bonus, that healing bonus to your Barbarian King. It's a little bit of a game changer and a little bit unorthodox compared to the way we used to play the Barbarian King Iron Fist ability pre-Town Hall 11 update. It used to be you wait till your Barbarian King is below 25% health, then you always use it at that point. Now there's actually more benefits to using it early on. So you can see I just zoomed in on the area, the obvious area that's going to open up a lot of territory on this base. Another raid by Tron. This is actually a raid that a guy in our clan, Boley's, been doing for a long time. I'm not going to share more than 3 replays because it gets a little repetitive. It's doing the same thing. You're opening up the base, right? You can guess where the earthquakes are going to go even before they drop them. Look at how much of the base is opened up with 4 earthquakes. Now, some people might also be asking why not use jump spells in the beginning of the attack. Well, jump spells actually clumps your troops up together because it lures them into the jump spell. So you can use jump spells certainly against these attacks, but more often than not, you're going to be a victim of mortar fire as your troops do clump up. With the earthquake spell, their troops kind of funnel a little bit wider into the center of the base. That's why it's more beneficial to use the 4 earthquake spells. Again, Tron goes ahead, uses the Eternal Tome. A lot of his troops left standing. Sometimes your Archer Queen's going to veer off path. Not the end of the world, nothing to worry about there. Sometimes she'll die, but more often than not, towards the end of the raid, at least your Warden and a few Wizards, your Warden and a few Witches will be alive. In some cases, like this one, your Archer Queen will be full health as well as your Warden. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. We talked about how to use 12 earthquakes for 3 stars as a Town Hall 11 on anti-3-star Town Hall 10s. Guys, good luck with this strategy, and thanks for watching. As always, take care.
Thanks for watching Clash with Ash. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Find more Ash at ClashWithAsh.com, and be sure to check out his Patreon page using the links in the description below. Take care, guys.
We don't play for fame, we don't play for cash. We just play for